Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to our Sunday gathering for Scully Check the Knots Legacy. We have some special guests with us today who we're going to get to in just a bit. But let's go ahead and just go around the room and check in with everyone, see how everyone's doing, check the vibe before we kick it off today. So, as always, I'm going to start with the talkative.
Doing good.
Always happy to see you. Casey and Stephanie, how are you guys? Oh, we're not hearing you for some reason. Seeing the movements, but not hearing you. We'll have to fix that. Howard, you are muted, but I'd love to hear from you.
Well, then I'll undo that. Yeah, I'm good. Everything's fine. It's a beautiful, cold, windy day in the Pacific Northwest.
This weather's a little bit wacko, kind of everywhere. That's kind of strange. Super windy here too. Christina, how are you?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here, getting really close to our big event and really wanting to hear what Heather has to say and hear some lovely tunes.
Oh, just gave that away. There's a hidden guitar on one of these squares, you guys. Deborah, how are you?
Hello, beautiful people. I parrot what Professor Howard said. It is crazy windy here today. The Salish Sea is whipping and twirling. So it's a good day to be inside with you all. Mwah.
Awesome. And Alejandro, my dear brother Alejandro, how are you?
Yeah. We had to bridge the dams. That's the only thing I want to say. We had to bridge the dams. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Alejandro. Heather, our special guest today, and we kind of showed you a peek of who has the guitar between Heather or Sharon, but it's Sharon has the guitar. So we're going to hear from Sharon a little bit later today, and I'm super excited about that. Thank you for being with us, Sharon. It was cool when Deb Cruz got up and she joined the thing. She's like, Sharon! So I was like, I think we're in for a treat. And then Heather, thank you for being with us. You've been on before. A lot changed since that time, and I'm really happy to have you with us. I'm going to kick it over to you, and you can let folks know who you are and what we're going to talk about today.
Well, thank you, Annette, and it's really an honor to be here and share stuff that I've learned about the dams, and it all stems from my concern about the Southern residents and the fact that we're going to lose them if we don't stop that pronto. And breaching the Snake River dams is the biggest thing that needs to be done for them immediately, and they just can't do without. And that's it's what we've been told by the top experts. And so I'm a person who, as a human, we're all responsible for the predicament that they're in. And I just couldn't be on the other side of however this shakes out in however many years and not have done everything that I can do. And I think it's just a matter of unraveling that ball of knots. There's nothing stopping us from saving the Southern residents and having them persist. It's just going to take us to do it and to dig in and figure out how. So there's me in a nutshell on this.
Thank you for saying that, because it's really, we're all involved in a bunch of different things, but it's all of our responsibility. So thank you for that reminder, bringing us centered for today. Appreciate that.
Thank you. And thank you all for this consistent show every week. It's just amazing energy. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. You ready for your slides?
Okay. Yes. Let's bring up the first slide, which I will tell you about. This really exemplifies where my concern stems from. And what this is a graph. The underneath part of the graph, I've put markups all over it, is from NOAA's 5-year review for the Southern residents. This was the last one done in 2021. And this represents modeling of the projection of the population of the Southern residents. And you can see, this where the red cross is marks where we are today. It's 2024, and that solid skinny blue line is the one that we're most tracking on right now. And you've got these three colors that represent three different data sets that they took data from for these projections in the modeling. And the green one is from the late 80s, when the southern residents were in a steep growth period. So, if I understand correctly, that means that's a really optimistic scenario. And the blue one is from 2017 to 2021, and you can see where that's headed. The purple one is a combination of them both. And so if we track that skinny blue line, that means in about 20 years, there are only going to be 39 Southern residents left. And I'm sure Howie can talk about how that means it's really getting to be too late right now. And so maybe, Howie, if you could just say something for like 30 seconds before I go on. Am I off the mark? I mean,
Well, no. And of course, Ken drilled down to each matriline and exactly what was happening with K's and L's. And that's reflected, if I can show this matriline chart, which this is K pod. And then this is L pod. And I could go down matriline by matriline, and there's only two matrilines in L pod that are viable. The others are dead end matrilines. They're just not reproducing, or they're already post reproductive and just not going to grow any. So there's some serious issues with reproduction in mostly K and L pods. J pod not so much, and Ken explains that in his declaration to the court, that J pod spends more time in the inland waters and seems to have other sources of salmon, where K and L pods are more likely to be out along the coast. And so they're dependent more on the Columbia Basin, and that is mainly Snake River salmon. So they're not finding enough out there, and that's impacting their ability to reproduce. So there's some dead end matrilines in K and L pods, and so I mean, you can get down to high resolution detail, but the overall picture is that downward trend without enough salmon.
and so we're running out of time to interrupt that. I mean, this is why the urgency for me has caused me to go into kind of what I'm going to go through next. I don't really want to spend my life upending the apple cart, but I just don't really see much other choice here. So, where does this lead us? The next thing on my list, let's see, to tell you about is that there's this ancient lawsuit that's been going on for decades, and up till recently, it was stayed for about 2.5 years for mediation, and then in February, the Judge Simon, granted the joint motion to stay litigation through 2028. And this mediation has to do with Columbia Basin salmon, but also, Snake River salmon and the dams. So it's been stayed for 5 years through 2028. And the moving parties' motion to stay includes the possibility to add 5 years onto that, which would go to 2033. And the moving parties are the plaintiffs, Oregon as an intervenor plaintiff, the federal defendants, Washington as an amicus, and 4 tribes, Yakima, Umatilla, Warm Springs, and Nez Perce. And in the order, when he approved the order to stay for up to 10 years, he wrote, "The court also finds that staying this litigation for 5 years will not cause undue damage or prejudice to any party." And this was something that the moving parties also contended in their motion. So, it's not my place to say that I know everything there is to know about what it's like to be one of those parties. However, if the orcas and the salmon were one of those actual parties, then, that statement, it just couldn't be made.
Right.
So the moving parties signed this MOU, which many may have heard about, and I'm sure that it reflects the well-intentioned work by many. But at the end of the day, that MOU is just purely aspirational. There's no teeth. It's not binding. It's aspirational.
Right. Definitely. Right.
Yeah.
There seemed to be a technical glitch there, but are we all back online? I guess so. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, right. The calculations, negotiations, and all the determinations that went into the signing of that agreement to stay for 5 and then possibly 10 years. I don't know exactly. I mean, there were many rewards, and the options were not optimal, I'm sure, because the tribes are accepting assistance to develop renewable energy sources, lots of solar power and wind on the reservations, and that's a good thing, and that's sort of intended to replace or work toward replacing the power that is believed to be generated by the dams. My kind of overall overview of that whole process and the process for the last 30, 40 years, well, especially since 2002, when the EIS came out that was court ordered, is that there are so many mythologies that are out there that have just become consensus, like background beliefs that everybody subscribes to, that are just not really realistic or not true. Number one is the authority to breach. And I think you're going to get into that, Heather, a little bit, because Jim made a big point of that. And he was just, up against the wind, because everybody believes that Congress needs to approve of any kind of breach. But it's really not the case. It's much simpler and quicker than that if you go by the actual chain of command that's involved in breaching. And another is that the hydropower from the dams is so essential that it has to be replaced before the dams can be removed. And that's not really true either. There's a current surplus of electricity. And so, more renewables is fantastic. That alleviates the need for more generation, but it's not necessary before breaching the dams. So there's just, a whole lot of misconceptions that we have to deal with. And I guess that's what's involved in upsetting the apple cart, because we've just got to dispel the myths.
Well, let's look a little bit in this apple cart, which is next on my list here. What is that apple cart, right? What is it? And a big part of that apple cart is politics. And if we don't know what's going on with the politics, I personally don't believe that the Southern residents will survive unless we kind of peek under that hood. And some of what I've found, what I see is that there's a lot more bipartisanship in politics than it appears on the surface, and not necessarily as a benefit for the orcas and salmon in this case. So, I'll start with Patty Murray, because she's one of the most powerful politicians in the United States, period, hands down, in charge of appropriations. And she's responsible for the Northwest. And she stepped in with the dam study with Jay Inslee in the last few years. And many saw that as an effort toward getting the dams breached. And what I'll share now is just it's an observation I made through just looking under that hood. But the Northwest River Partners is a trade group that is really seen and known as the face of preserving the Lower Snake River dams. And they have lobbyists who are working to keep the snake dams. And Their lead lobbyist right now is Rick Desimone. And Desimone was Patty Murray's chief of staff for 8 years, and he managed her election campaigns. So I know that lobbyists can change stripes, but to me, anyway, this, from my research, it looks tried and true. From what I can tell, it's not like I'll go here and work for this person, I'll take money from here and there. It's pretty entrenched. And that also doesn't mean that I know that Patty Murray put him up to it. All I know is I'm sort of relaying what I've seen. And so you've got Northwest River Partners paying a lobbyist who has deep, deep ties to Patty Murray. And he's been a lobbyist since 2007. And at that, his firm that's working for Northwest River Partners, here's just a few figures, is that 5 have worked for Patty Murray, including to manage her election campaigns and other key appointments. At least 7 of the 10 staff have worked for Democrats. So it's not just a pro-Dam Republican type thing. One of them, who is assigned to the Snake Dams account, worked for Rep. Doc Hastings and Senator Slade Gorton, who were both staunch pro-Dam politicians in the day. They've got a new guy who previously worked for Patty Murray, and he's been paid $250,000 to lobby for the Pacific Northwest Waterways Association, who are completely pro-Dam. And he's now come under Desimone's umbrella to continue lobbying for PNWA in support of maintaining the dams. And to date, Northwest River Partners has paid Desimone $350,000 in 2.25 years. And that money mainly comes from ratepayers. So that's just one thing to be aware of that's under the hood. Another politician who I had the opportunity to have a little Q&A with is Bob Ferguson. And he is the Washington State Attorney General who is running for governor. And he supplied his answers about the Snake River dams, which support more studies and process for like a maybe someday breaching. And on the Q&A on the Zoom I had with him, I said, I understand that the orcas are out of time, and that since he supports the delayed approach, I very earnestly asked if he is aware of evidence that the orcas can wait. Otherwise, aren't they going to be going extinct under his plan? And these are his responses to that question. He said, I don't accept the premise of the question. He agrees with the existential threat to the orcas. The dams are not coming down tomorrow or next year. As governor, he can't do anything except help transition to a green economy, electrify vehicles, and be carbon neutral in the next couple decades. He said, let Congress make the right decision for orcas. He said, why are you putting the question that way? Of course not. It's an existential threat by definition happening now. He said it wasn't fair of me to give him a false choice, that he can have those two thoughts at the same time, that there's an existential threat to orcas, and that he's endorsed by the leading environmental organizations. So I know I'm throwing out a mouthful there, but we do live in a free and fair democracy, and we should be clear about the decision makers in charge of saving the southern residents. So is this a good time to share screen, Annette? The next thing that I'm going to share was in 2019, I was at a town hall with Rick Larson in Friday Harbor, and he spoke, and I hope the audio isn't terrible, but I asked him about the dams. All right, this is a Democrat in Congress, 2019, so maybe his views have morphed a little, I don't know, but his district includes San Juan County. So let's listen to Rick Larson. Governor Jay Inslee keeps telling us to talk to Congress about it. So
remind me to thank Jay for that.
Well, you should thank the
I'm sure Jay would appreciate me telling people to call him as much as I appreciate it. I know Jay really well, so I know.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I know. Rather than focus on your question specifically about how do I reconcile, say, the dams issue, I'd rather answer that by saying, here's how I reconcile it. Here are the things I'm doing. I feel pretty confident in the actions I'm taking in Congress to contribute to saving the southern resident killer whales.
Just the topic of dams itself and the four lower Snake River dams.
Well,
How do you? I mean, I know it's a tough question.
It is. I think it's a narrow question. So, and I guess I'll just be. I don't support breaching the dams. The four lower Snake are still being used, and it's contributing to the economy. They're also contributing to the debate about the salmon populations. There's a cost-benefit analysis to everything we do. Pardon me. And right now, I don't think that the cost of reaching those dams is worth it, given the cost of the other actions that we can take.
So was that audible?
Mostly, but not entirely.
Yeah.
But I got the gist of it. He said he does not support removing the dams for economic reasons because they provide a lot of economic services but he really didn't explain how throwing more money at other kinds of restoration is going to help the southern residents the way that removing the dams would. So he didn't really address it, but he also repeated that misconception that it's up to Congress.
Right.
And
what stood out to me also in what he said was that there's some value in the Snake River dams because they're contributing to the discussion about salmon was an interesting one. So anyway, there's
I didn't follow that logic. Contributing to the discussion, yeah, they definitely are, but they're not contributing to the survival.
Right. So there's a little taste of one of our Congress members, and he's a Democrat, so he's not known as a pro dam. I mean, he's not like Kathy McMorris Rogers. This is a Democrat in Congress who represents San Juan County.
Mm-hmm.
So just to kind of understand where he's coming from, and that was 4 years ago. So how have those actions worked out? The southern residents haven't improved. So I will move on here to this was some discussion with Jim Waddell, and I think that he picks up rather well in the string here.
What I've been pointing out for years is we don't need Congress's money. We don't need federal appropriations because BPA, by law, is supposed to pay 90% of this stuff anyway, and they can also pay 100%. That's one person making a decision, the administrator, and as opposed to hundreds of members of Congress trying to agree to something that is anathema to, to their belief structure there on both sides. And even with us, the ratepayers paying for it, we still save money, and we still have surplus power. BPA does that really softens the blow here. My analysis is that breaching the Snake River dams is one of the bang for the buck. It is the best environmental restoration project in this country. The district commander could actually make a decision today, and he could have bulldozers out there in a week and start breaching. He has the authority, and he probably even has some money to do that with, but BPA ultimately will pay. This is just the thing that drives you nuts is that this is one of the best deals you could ever imagine, and there aren't any losers really. A couple guys at the Corps are going to have to probably go work on another dam or retire early, and they'll get, their benefits and so forth. But that's really it. And so, but that's not the word that's not the narrative you hear. These key points about urgency, about, why isn't it orcas can't eat other stuff? You hear that all the time. And, and once it's explained about the way they evolved for over several 100,000 million years, and, filling their niche and so forth in the ecosystem, and how all that works is, it's not that hard. But if you don't have the 5 minutes to explain that to a decision maker, then, they're going to hear the wrong thing. They're going to hear it's the ocean. There's nothing we can do about, salmon. It's the ocean, or whatever. The mockery of statements that comes out and so forth. And anyway, that's what I'm thinking about.
There's what Jim is thinking about. And here,
That's logic that I can follow. What he's saying is what makes sense. Sorry to interrupt.
Right.
So here is what Ken was thinking about. This was in 2021, December.
And, I've got into this thing studying whales, southern resident killer whales. They come into Puget Sound, go up and down the coast, eat salmon. And this was their main livelihood until when I was in high school, they were talking about, and shortly after, damming the Snake River, closing it off so that the salmon couldn't return. We've got 3 pods here, J, K, and L. J is most resident. They're in the Salish Sea more often than anybody else. K's and L's both are dependent on the coast, the runs of this Columbia and Snake River system. They're on their way out. They're already going extinct. Yeah, I know Jim Waddell personally. I've met him at the beginning of search for food for whales. Oh, Snake River. Oh, here's an engineer that worked his whole career in that system of the Army Corps of Engineers, all the way to White House levels, high level in the government. He knows the subject better than any other single person, probably. And he's a very brave soul. All right. Reach him now.
Well, there you have it. I just thought, this would be a nice place to share some, recordings from those two. And I have a few more things I can relay, but I think I've probably given you all enough to talk about and think about, and maybe for others to weigh in on.
Well, Heather, I have a question from someone in the chat, and I think they're watching on YouTube. Can someone answer what authority does the governor have? Does the governor have any authority at all? What can they do to start the removal of the Snake River dams? So
I'll just say what, I think I've heard Jim Waddell say before is, well, for number one, the governor could make a stand for immediate breaching publicly. They could write to the president of the United States. They could, work it from their end with the Northwest delegates toward that end. They could put their energy toward that.
Right.
And as far as legally speaking, I can't imagine there aren't some tools under the hood towards that effect. So maybe Howard has some ideas.
Well, right. I don't think there's any direct authority because they are federal dams built by the Army Corps of Engineers, so they're under that authority. But the governor could make a stand, but more than that, provide the education, clear up the misconceptions, actually use his pulpit to tell people that it can be done. It actually isn't that complicated. That was Jim's message throughout. I mean, with all the, the funding capabilities. And I just want to, emphasize that Jim was a scientist. I mean, he really, an engineer has to pay attention to practical realities. He had to see what was real and draw from every scientific source he could. and sum it up accurately. And that is what he did. And he was the ultimate insider. I mean, he was in the belly of the beast, 35 years in the Army Corps of Engineers, and over 20 years of that in DC, working on sustainability policies. So he understands lines of authority and processes for getting stuff done, and also political misconceptions and how they can muddy the waters and throw people off track and spread. When you've got a huge lobbying effort, when you've got a budget and a lot of vested interests, and what I think is needing to be uncovered is the influence of the federal money that comes into the area. It's not only ratepayer money that's being spent; it's taxpayer money, or it's guaranteed loans that come out of federal budgets. But the result is it's uncounted because the books are not made public exactly, and they're very complex. But roughly $1 billion a year goes into the region. The Tri-Cities, the Army Corps, the BPA, the Bureau of Reclamation, all the agencies involved, into NOAA. And so there's a lot of people, I mean, involved in the maintenance of the dams, a lot of just, electricians, a lot of, tradespeople, and the mitigation, the restoration work, a lot of biologists, a lot of salmon biologists, as we know some. And, it's just basically, it's stimulus money that is pumped into the community and that ultimately goes into neighborhoods and into schools and libraries, and every kind of budget there is stimulated by this federal money. And I think that's a strong motivation to keep it coming. And it's all tied to the existence of the dams. And so that is going to foster a lot of lobbying and a lot of political persuasion to keep it as it is, keep the status quo with the dams up. And that I think really needs to be looked at. And it really, I think Jim is right. There are really no losers, because there can be readapting. I mean, there are going to be some people are going to there's going to be dislocations. It's kind of like when the federal government shuts down a major military base. There are a lot of contractors, a lot of people have to make adjustments, and economies are rerouted and reconstituted, but they'll go into the community, and so there aren't going to be huge losses by any one party, and there's going to have to be readaptations. But we've got to revitalize the whole watershed, the whole biosphere of the Snake River Basin, because everybody depends on it. I mean, it's you can't just deprive the lifeblood from a huge region like that and not suffer the consequences. So
yeah. And time is with those Snake River salmon, with climate change coming, letting that genetics go is just it's just not an option. I don't think anybody wants that. So with the fact of where the southern residents are, and that they just don't have time to wait. And there's and maybe you can share the link to Jim Waddell had a legal paper done examining all the ways that the President of the United States and the Army Corps can breach the dams without congressional authorization. And the reason is that they're already authorized. You don't need to deauthorize them in order to retire the dams themselves, and then you put them in caretaker status, and you secure them by breaching them. So they just sit there. They're not deauthorized, and
Right.
Bonneville can pay for it. And a lot of I hear more and more that people understand that they don't really contest it. It's just a political thing. It's a political
Right.
And if we want the Southern residents to persist, we're going to have to go that route, because, here's Rick Larson, my congressman for San Juan County, and he is not interested in breaching the dams, let alone the others who are more vocally pro dams. I just,
Right.
Anyway.
Right. I know that law review article is brilliant. It's so well laid out, and it gives all the precedents and all of the lines of authority that you need to know to see that it can be done. I mean, it's been made complicated. It's like this giant roadblock has been thrown up in front of dam breaching, saying congressional approval is required. And it's really not. It's, the dams were authorized to be built by Congress in the 50s, but not required to be built. They were, Army Corps was given the authority to build a dam, but the authority to maintain, to operate the dams is totally under the Army Corps, and they are money losers. There's no economic justification for keeping the dams there, so they qualify to be decommissioned and rendered inoperative and mothballed or secured. I mean, you've got to pay attention to, not having them be hazards after breaching. But, all of that is Army Corps protocol. They know how to do that. And Jim's voice is incredibly valuable because he comes right from the inside of that. I mean, he oversaw the final development of that 2002 environmental impact statement. So he knows what went into it. And when he reviewed the numbers, he saw that the benefits of breaching were greatly undervalued, and the benefits of keeping the dams are greatly overvalued. So when you actually look at real numbers, it doesn't make sense to keep the dams economically, much less biologically.
That's what Ken said in another part of our interview.
Yeah. I mean, there really is no justification except free money from the federal government.
Yeah.
That's the justification.
Yeah, a lot of lobbying money. So there you go, guys. I hope that I didn't bore anybody.
No, it's never boring, because it's we have to keep talking about it. We have to keep talking about it. And there's, whether there's one extra person today that hasn't been watching for the last few weeks, like we always say that you don't know who you're going to get this information to. So awareness and education, and that one person could trickle to, sharing this with 100 people. And that's really what we need is, yes, one person could take the stand, but we all can. And by sharing this information, that's one way to do it. I want to check in with the folks on the screen, because I think, Deborah, you might have wanted to say something. I had muted you back because we were getting an echo, but go ahead.
Yeah, I did have just something that just kind of resonated down my cord when someone asked, what does the government's or the politicians or the governors, what's his power of authority? What I think is a little more important is, what's his responsibility? You're not listening to scientists. You're not listening to the people. You're not listening to everybody evenly. You're only listening to the lobbyists that have a lot of money on their side. And that just, I don't know, somebody needs to come up with a way to bust through that disconnect of money. And, with power comes responsibility. So they're enjoying the power, but they're just not having the responsibility on the other side. So that was just something that was just like, somebody come up with a way, a poster, something. I don't know. Sorry, it's a rant, but.
No, Deborah, that is such an astute observation. I mean, that comes from your core, and it is at the core of this. And I've been, repeating this tagline in my head that politics are only as good, politicians and decision makers in our society at this point of time in history are only as good and effective as the pressure that is put upon them.
Mhm.
You know, unless there's some genius that can figure out how to get over the political hump with their, you know, their morality. I mean, just food for thought.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thanks, Deborah, for chiming in there. That I always go back and watch these, right? Because I don't really, it's hard for me to focus and do things. But I'm still in the impact of that chart. And, you know, Alejandro said that, you know, as well, like, I don't want to sit here and watch them go down to 20, you know, or 40 or half their population. I'm going to show the chart again because we hear the information, we hear the numbers, but there's something really impactful, powerfully impactful to look at it. And so I don't know, Heather, if you can just maybe quickly summarize it again for those that might have joined late.
Sure. So this is from the last 5-year review that NOAA does, 2021, and a new one will be coming along soon. But this is the modeling, the accepted modeling for the population projections for the southern residents. And where that red cross line is 2024, and it ends at 2045, so about 20 years from now. And I overlaid the numbers and the dotted blue lines and the little graph stuff up on the upper right to show where that red cross line is most closely where we're tracking right now. So we have, you know, between 70 and 75 whales. There's 2024. That's pretty much where we are right now. And if we follow that line, that means that in about 20 years, there's only going to be 39 southern residents left. And why would we track that line? Why not go up on the green line? Well, the green section is a data set from 1985 to 89, and that was during steep growth. And I mean, I don't know how comparable that is to today, and only a researcher could say that. But from a layman's point of view, and maybe Howard could say, I mean, that seems unlikely. And so it does seem more likely. And also from, you know, the comments that I hear from researchers and what Deborah Giles has declared in sworn declaration, and also Ken Balcom has given sworn declaration on, is that we're really on that blue line, and it is getting too late right now. So there's my rant. Howard.
Absolutely accurate. And, you know, I mean, it comes down to the mechanics of nutrition and, you know, reproductive capacity. And there's just so many females, especially in K&L pods. But, you know, I mean, J pod isn't doing great, but K&L pods are really not, you know, able to reproduce. And so their mortality rates are also high. I mean, there's sort of this new paper that came out was trying to distinguish between birth rates and mortality rates, and saying it's not so much birth rates, it's more mortality rates. Well, you know, both are affected, but birth rates really tell the difference. You cannot replenish the population when females are unable to reproduce. You know, 1 or 2 in a lifetime is low, and some are having none. There should be 4 or 5 per female in their reproductive years. So that's what's happening on the demographic level.
And I think I'd rather give them food than a bunch of other Hail Marys, quite frankly. Yeah.
And here's another thing to just keep in mind. And Freddie's watching, and he just posted this, and it's so true. You know, keep everything positive. Climate change is real. What happens to the Coahuilmechans world is doomed to happen to us. And so if anybody needs to hear it that way, you know, then hear it that way, but hear it.
Well, that
And
should bring out that responsibility that we were talking about.
Right.
You know, it's not just authority, but they have a responsibility to do the right thing. And if it's not just for the salmon and the Quotelmachin, it's for us too. You know, I mean, we can't do that.
powerful voices out there that need to be heard and need to be heard and will be heard upcoming here in another week and a day with an event that's happening. You guys use your voices. You want to talk about voices, Jim Waddell. I mean, we can maybe show over the next couple of weeks. I mean, he did this presentation on YouTube. It was like 2 hours. I mean, really in-depth stuff, and we can take pieces of that as well just to talk about. But I want to kick this back over to Heather and to Sharon because, you know, talking about Jim and the impact he's made has inspired so many people to be a voice. And we're lucky to have Sharon with us let's hear her voice today. Anything you want to say, Heather, before she starts?
Yeah, I mean, just thank you. And, you know, it does feel doomy, gloomy, and no, you know, and you know, we do need to keep it positive. And I think that Deborah's comment really goes to that, is the way to be positive is to get educated. Don't fool yourself. Don't gloss it over, frost it over. Learn as much as you can, but do something about it. And I know it's hard. We have a society with a lot of momentum that creates delay, and it's hard to step out and say, I know this for sure. But I think we have enough pattern behind us that we know what to do. And I want us all to be healthy and happy and to have a healthy environment full of Southern residents. And as far as Jim went, yeah, the guy was endured a lot, and I never saw that he had personal gain from the work that he did. So, yeah, I don't know. They broke the mold, and, you know, bless Sharon's heart here for writing a nice ditty about him.
All right, Heather, you are muted and you might be a little frozen. I'm not sure. Let's see if we can get you to unmute. And
Yeah, she froze right when she's ready to go on stage.
she's been not frozen this whole entire time. Okay, let's try again.
Oh,
Sharon.
me?
Yeah.
I was frozen?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the water's cold. What can I say?
People need to pay for the ticket first before the show.
We were talking about that in the green room. No, I'm kidding. Okay. So, no, I just want to say, Jim, along with Howard and Ken and Heather and so many people that care so deeply about this issue, have really inspired me. I just feel very privileged to have gotten to know Jim a bit, you know, and he really tried to help in circles that I revolve in. We tried to educate people. We tried to get them to understand why it's not worth keeping these dams in place for multiple reasons. And I just really am feeling that gaping hole with Jim's loss. And so I wrote this song, which I'm very grateful for being asked to sing on this program right now on TokiTV. And it's just Jim Waddell. Jim Waddell, it's time for us to say farewell. You are that special kind that cannot rest until the work is done. We'll carry it on. Jim Waddell, from the Army Corps to the PUD, you worked so hard to set the salmon free, to get those who would not hear to understand that we must join the stewards of this ancient land. And I can see you riding the waves on Granny's back, then Tokitays. Sail on, we'll carry it on. You're the best friend a Southern resident ever had. Jim Waddell, you persevered, you went through hell. Heavy volumes in your arms, you lived by the principle of do no harm. You did your very best until the very end. Now it's time for you to rest, my friend. Jim Waddell, we will not forget. We won't get caught in that corporate net. We'll keep fighting tooth and nail to shift from barges to high-speed rail, to breach those lower snake dams and open up the trail. And I can see you riding the waves on Granny's back, then TokiTV's. Sail on, we'll carry it on. You're the best friend a southern resident ever had.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Thank
That was
you.
beautiful. Thank you, Sharon. It's thank you.
That was beautiful. And so right. Jim's so deserving, and that I really appreciate you writing that song and singing for us.
Thank you. Every time I hear Skelly Chuck the Nut's name, it's just it gets you right in the heart. Thanks, Sharon.
That's hearing the angels sing right there. You're incredible.
Yeah, beautiful, really touching and moving. And I know that Jim is listening right now, saying, "Yep," and we're gonna continue on his work for sure.
I just want to say one more thing. It's like, I have my partner and I have a YouTube channel called Our Little Island, and we have our Breach the Lower Snake River Dam song on that YouTube channel. And I highly recommend it that people play it and sing it.
I love that. I'm gonna look it up. While we're talking. And see if we can share that link here. So many species depending on this. So Howard, you intro us into our next segment, please.
Okay, well, these are the 137 species of mammals, birds, amphibians, and reptiles that depend on Snake River salmon and depend on salmon everywhere to
How the fuck do you pronounce that?
to inhabit their waters and to spawn and to leave their carcasses up to return to nature and to be spread everywhere. And of course, these are the animals, and it doesn't even count the vegetation. There are nutrients from the ocean in the trees and all the plant life in the salmon watersheds. So shall we begin with the California condor is one of those. California condors are a majestic bird with a 10-foot wingspan that have been held sacred by various tribes throughout history. Although they thrive on carrion, they are scrupulous in nature and are very particular about cleaning themselves, especially after eating. They can be seen preening and drying themselves for hours by ponds. If there is no water available, they depend on rocks and plants to tidy themselves. Their average lifespan is around 60 years, making them one of the world's longest living birds. While working on captive breeding techniques for the birds, conservation scientists have found that California condors can produce asexually. Though this could be thought of as a means of survival, the birds produced asexually did not live long, only for a span of about 10 years. Did not know that.
And Deb Cruz looks like she is taking a call, so we're going to skip through hers. And I think, Christina, this will be you.
Okay, I'm a western terrestrial garter snake today. Garter snakes are also known as garden snakes, gardener snakes, and grass snakes. Adult females are larger than adult males. Sometimes thousands of garters will hibernate in the same den. Western garter snakes spread the toxins of their saliva by chewing on prey. Female garter snakes are able to store the male sperm for years before fertilization. Interesting.
That's interesting. Thank you. Now we'll go back to Deb Cruz.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Mammalogists currently recognize roughly 60 different deer mouse species, all under the genus Peromyscus. Although some species are prolific and other subspecies are critically endangered, deer mouse are an important part of any ecosystem, providing food for the larger birds and mammals. Their diet is also beneficial to the ecosystem as they consume a large amount of insects. Although deer mice live mostly solitary lives, except when mating, they do have several methods of communicating with one another. They can use chemical scents, particularly for marking their territories. Sometimes they engage in posturing and grooming one another. They also use a wide variety of vocalizations to communicate with members of their own species and others. An agitated deer mouse might stomp its front feet, much like a skunk, and drum its tail on the ground. And I can't see what the rest of that is.
Oh, I'm sorry. I left you that. It's kind of funny though. It sounds like throwing a fit, right? I could just. All right. Let's see. Who has the black-billed magpie? Deborah.
That would be me. Deborah today is a black-billed magpie. They are highly intelligent birds known for their problem-solving abilities and complex social structures. Research studies have shown that magpies are capable of self-awareness and are one of the few animals that can recognize themselves in the mirror. Black-billed magpies can use scent to locate food, a trait not common in birds. They are omnivores, feeding on a variety of foods, including insects, small mammals, fruits, and seeds. These birds are excellent mimics and can imitate the sounds of other birds and even human voices, and spectacularly beautiful.
Oh,
There you go.
I am the black-tailed deer. Black-tailed deer might not commonly be associated with water-based adventures, but they possess remarkable swimming skills. These agile creatures fearlessly take the plunge when faced with a body of water like a river or lake as an obstacle during migration or escape from predators. They elegantly navigate through water with graceful strokes of their slender legs. They are buoyed by their hollow-filled guard hairs beneath their fur coat that provide additional insulation and buoyancy. Swimming serves purposes for black-tailed deer beyond mere survival. It aids in accessing new food sources on islands or coastal regions. It helps them escape danger when pursued by predators like wolves or mountain lions. It is truly mesmerizing to witness these elegant creatures effortlessly glide through the rippling waters as if they were born aquatic beings.
Spotted towhee. Towhees are known for their double scratch behavior. Spotted towhees have a unique way of foraging for food where they perform a double scratch movement using both feet simultaneously to uncover insects and seeds in the leaf litter. They have a peculiar courtship ritual. During courtship displays, male spotted towhees may engage in a behavior called flutter scraping, where they rapidly scrape their feet on the ground while fluttering their wings to attract a mate. Towhees have regional dialects. Research suggests that spotted towhees in different regions may have slight variations in their calls and songs similar to human dialect.
That's awesome. All right, the golden eagle. Golden eagles are known for their swift and powerful flying abilities, reaching speeds of up to 200 miles per hour when diving for prey. They have incredibly strong talons that can exert hundreds of pounds of pressure, allowing them to catch and carry prey much larger than themselves. Golden eagles are skilled at using the landscape to their advantage, often using updrafts and thermals to soar effortlessly for long distances. Golden eagles have a unique hunting technique where they sometimes work together with other predators like wolves or foxes to catch prey. I did not know that.
Oh, okay. Belted kingfisher. Look at this guy. Their large heads and long, sturdy bills are well adapted for catching and holding on to slippery fish. They also have a special third eyelid called a nictitating membrane that helps protect their eyes while diving into the water at high speeds. The rattling call of the belted kingfisher is a common sound near water bodies. It's often described as sounding like a loud mechanical rattle. Kingfishers are capable of catching fish longer than themselves. They regurgitate the bones and claws of their meal and reuse it in the most special way. Their nests are created in banks and burrows, which they line with the very bones of their prey. Ooh.
All right, Sharon, if we can get you to unmute. There you go.
Yes, I just want to say I think that bird is would be a pop singer in the 50s.
This guy?
Belted kingfisher just reminds me of a pop singer in the 50s. Okay, not that I was there. Okay, this is the rhinoceros auklet. The horn-like projection on the bill of the rhinoceros auklet is more prominent in breeding adults and is used in courtship displays. These seabirds are excellent divers, capable of diving to depths of up to 100 feet in search of food. Rhinoceros auklets are known for their distinctive eerie calls, which sound like a series of groans and growls. They often nest in burrows on islands or coastal cliffs where they lay a single egg. These birds have a unique way of excreting excess salt from their bodies by sneezing out concentrated water. I want to see that.
The elegant tern. I am now an elegant tern, and really all of these animals are so elegant and so interesting. This is so educational. Elegant terns are fascinating birds that migrate long distances, often from North to South America. Elegant terns have a unique way of cooling down in hot weather. They can pant like a dog to regulate their body temperature. They have been observed engaging in a behavior called kleptoparasitism, where they steal food from other seabirds like pelicans or gulls by diving down and snatching fish from their beaks. They also have a habit of stealing nesting materials from neighboring tern nests.
Sneaky little guys, huh?
Wow. Those are all species dependent on the salmon in the Northwest?
Yeah.
Right, at some stage. I mean, from the eggs to the fry to the smolts to the young adults, juveniles, and to the adults, and then depending on the carcasses that are left upstream after they spawn. So there's just so many stages in the life cycle of the salmon that the animals are dependent on all of them.
So there's 137, and we're highlighting 10 each week, and we will get through all of them. I just want to shout out to Alma, who's watching on a train from one place to another, for doing this for us every single week. again, it's not just what you're going to find when you Google the animal. She's doing a lot of research to get fun facts. It shows each of their personalities, which is really cool. And Alma, thank you. She's out in Washington, D.C. and not just out there for what she's out there for. She's printing flyers. She has passed out and been spreading awareness out there about breaching these dams. And so Alma's out there on other business, but this is all of our business and all of our responsibility. So Alma, thank you so much for all you do for us every single week and what you're doing out there this weekend. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. I wanted to also add that this whole list of 137 species is derived from what is called the Cedar Home Report, which was the director of Department of Natural Resources about 20 years ago, and a list of dozens of co-authors and sources put together this report, which was a whole different perspective on wildlife. Basically, that it is an ecological picture, it is interdependence. And so to highlight that, they did the research and showed how many species depend on salmon. So when salmon are saved, it's not just the salmon that are saved, it's the whole biosphere and the whole ecosystem, including, of course, southern resident orcas. So that was a sort of a landmark event that was a whole new perspective by the agencies, by the state DNR and wildlife departments to reconceive of nature and their jobs, rather than just saving individual species. They've got to look at all the interactions with all the other species, which is really a powerful new view.
Thanks, Howard, for the background. I'm trying to keep up with the comments here. So what can we do, right? What can we do? There's lots of things coming up. And real quick, Howard, can you show us what shirt you're wearing? Because people are asking, including Sharon. Yeah.
Yes. Breach the dam, save her family, Toki's legacy. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for showing that. So Sharon, there is a Etsy shop, and Casey, you want to tell folks, transparency, where are the funds going? The profits from this are going where?
For those t-shirts, they're going to the Breach the Dams protest GoFundMe, and then everything else in the Etsy store is going to Orca Network's Toki's Legacy.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Get your shirts. We always say this. It's not like, oh, you just have a cool new shirt, right? It's a conversation starter, and people are like, wait, what are you talking about? What's on your shirt? It's a great way to start conversations and spread awareness, all while supporting Orca Network and the events that are being planned and coordinated for breaching the dams. And of course, we need to tell Biden, right? And here's a cool new way to do that. Christina, I'm going to show some pictures and you can talk about it.
Okay, well, I was just I was just thinking about all of what Howard was saying and Heather was saying about, the orcas and how it's our responsibility, and how that's really how I came up with the whole 137 species and representing them for this event coming up, because, and it's not like about just the species as well. It's about the trees, because the trees need the nutrients and everything. So I thought what we could do is have Text Tuesday, and everyone on Tuesdays can text Biden a picture of themselves holding up one of the posters or the flyers that are floating all around the internet, as well as sending it to TokiTV 2022@gmail.com, because I'd like to get a count of all of those, so we can, have them being sent to the Biden administration, maybe to the Army Corps, or I don't know, just whoever needs to have them, maybe, and then also having a count of them, because I'd like to keep track of all of the text, and, so you can print one of these out right? There's a whole bunch of them online. There's these ones and just print them out and then take your picture, with it so you can see it, and then text it to the Biden administration, which the number is on one of those pictures. And then also if you can just email it to TokiTV 2022@gmail.com. That way we can keep an account and also come to the event on Monday. That would be also a really good thing to do. If you can't come, keep calling and writing the Biden administration, as well as the other government officials like Inslee and Murray. I know that they obviously don't really want to breach the dams because they would have already by now, but we have to keep the pressure on. That's what we're doing, is we're keeping the breaching on the front lines, because that's the most important. Not that we're just saying, oh, okay, it's all right, we'll wait 8 to 10 years or if ever. We can't do that because we'll lose too many 137 species that rely on the Pacific salmon, not to mention the trees and the shrubs and everything. So if you're coming, I know that a lot of people are coming. I've heard them say they were coming. They were taking their day off from work and they were coming down. So please come down. I have some extra posters if you don't have one. Also, I have a couple of costumes that need to be claimed. So we're going to have our little street performance with lots of great people speaking, and we'll be honoring Jim Waddell as well. And we just need you guys to keep the pressure up, because we all have a voice and we all can do something. We all can do something every single day to make this happen. And it's not like it's, unheard of, because we already have dams coming down and the success is great. And we know that. So please keep calling and writing and come to the event.
Where do people go? So I have it up on the screen, and maybe you could highlight some of the speakers. Where do folks go and where do they meet you?
We're going to be at the state capitol in Olympia here in Washington at the Temple for Justice South Steps. Okay. I was asking everyone to wear black, please. And we're having great guests and speakers. We're going to have music by Right as Rain. They're an awesome band, as you've heard here on TokiTV a few times. They sing great music. We're going to have Scala Hala, Rena Morris. We're going to have our famous Professor Howard Garrett will be there. And we're going to also have London Fletcher. She's done a lot of lectures. She's really a beautiful, growing up to be a woman now. She's been fighting for the residents for years and years. So it's going to be really, really good and powerful. And it's going to be more powerful the more people that come.
Awesome. Thank you, Christina, for all the organizing and artwork, and Deborah. I mean, there's so much going on behind the scenes to make this demonstration powerful. It's going to be powerful. So to be able to see, I mean, people are visual, right? So the messages are getting out there, but you're going to be able to see the impacts. And so, Christina, thank you for all the work you've done. All of you guys. I mean, I know Deborah's they can't even talk to me during the week because they're too busy making rivers and making all this stuff. I'm like, what the heck? So I know you guys are working hard, and just appreciate all that you guys are doing. Everybody's voice. Alejandro has a bazillion followers, and he's constantly like, we got to save her family. So Alejandro, anything you want to say before we get ready to close? You're muted.
Thank you so much for the information shared here. It's very important for the orcas. Thank you so much for the song. It's a beautiful song, a beautiful message. We need to breach the dams, and I don't want to see in 20 years half of the residents' orcas population disappearing. So we need to act now. We need to act now and do our best to breach the dams as soon as possible because these orcas gonna die soon. I hope not, but we need to help them. They need our help. We need to breach the dams. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alejandro. And again, guys, if you take those pictures, I'm going to put them up on the screen one more time. I know we're over our time, but I'm going to put these up one more time. So if you want to take a screenshot, that's fine. If not, they're all over our Facebook group page. But go ahead. Oops, let me take the banner down real quick. If I can, go ahead and take a screenshot of that. Just cut us off of it and take a picture with it and get that sent in. These are some examples, again, that you guys can do. Just add your own flair to it. And then if you do, please, again, send it to TokiTV2022@gmail.com. We'll keep track of it. And then we will probably, like we do, make some sort of video or something that'll be included in. So just really thank you guys very much. I appreciate it a lot.
Annette, I have another really cool idea for the texting thing. For everybody coming to the Capitol next week, take a ton of selfies with the North Olympic Pod, with the speakers, with Scala Hala, with you at the Capitol in the background. And then each week, each selfie, it's like, look, we're not just some person sitting on our couch. We're hitting the ground. We're here at the Capitol. So take a lot of selfies and have them stocked up so that then you can, manipulate them and keep margin them with every Tuesday. Just a thought that hit me again.
What did you say, Heather, about pressure? What did you say? Because I was trying to type it because I was like, oh, that was so good. Do you remember what you said about
that politicians are only as good as the pressure that is brought to bear on them?
That's awesome.
Like you could call that a math formula. I think it's pretty true to the math.
Yeah, it's so true, guys. So keep the pressure. Your voices are powerful. Your voices can be heard in so many ways through song, Sharon. Thank you. Through letters, through text, through phone calls. Just keep on it. There's so many people that are doing this, and I get mad at myself sometimes because I'm like, I didn't text today, because it is that important that you do that every single day, guys. Get your voice out there and keep up the pressure like we talked about. Christina, any final things about next Monday?
No, just thank you guys. I mean, this is a joint effort. It takes a village, and I look at all of these people on the screen and off of the screen, and I just look at all these animals behind me, and I have to be optimistic and know that we're going to do this. And it's because of everyone. It's because of all of the people that care, and we can make it happen. We can do it. We can do it. Breach now.
Howard, anything to finish with you, sir?
Well, I don't have anything saved up, but I am looking forward to seeing everybody who will come down to the Capitol on the 11th, and we can just amplify our voices all over the place. And I think we got a really, really powerful message. And I think there's a lot of hope in the truth, in clarifying what is really true. If we can make that known, and I think we have all we need to do that now, really just in the last couple of years with that law review article and with the declarations, the amicus briefs. The information is concise and clear, and those are official documents, and we've just got to get those known to people like our representatives and senators and the White House, right to President Biden. So we have the truth. It's on our side. We know what can be done, what needs to be done, and what is our responsibility. So if we can just amplify that and let it be known, we can change opinions.
Just don't let them off the hook anymore. Enough is enough.
No.
Yeah, I want to add one thing to that, which is that I'm on the Washington State Democrats Central Committee, and in our platform, in the Washington State Democrats platform, is a resolution. I mean, it's not a we have passed resolutions, and it's I believe it's in our platform, but we have passed resolutions to breach the 4 lower Snake River dams. So I got to just double check, make sure it's actually in the platform, but we have passed resolutions calling for breaching those 4 dams. And so if you're talking to Democratic politicians, you should let them know that, we need to make sure they know what the grassroots of their party is calling for.
Awesome.
Excellent. That should be known too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
remember, it's now, it's immediately, it's because
Right.
it just keeps getting more years and more years keeps piling on, and turn around, it's 10 years later, nothing's been done. I mean, it has to be now.
I know.
Yeah.
It's now or never.
Yeah.
Really. It's got to
Now or
be done.
never.
Seriously. Thanks, guys. Sharon, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to because your voice and your guitar is so beautiful. Any chance you can sing us a little outro for the day? That's seriously putting her on the spot.
Oh, twist my arm. Never I play this. Concrete walls built where the salmon once swam. Since then the salmon have been in a jam. Good luck to the orcas, survive if you can. Breach the 4 Snake River dams. Everybody, here we go. Breach the 4 lower Snake River dams. Breach those Snake River dams. Remember that salmon don't start out in cans. Breach the 4 Snake River dams.